As the political landscape shifts toward an incoming Trump administration, one of the most alarming strategies being discussed is his administration's plans to bypass Congress through the use of executive orders. This strategy, which has been utilized by presidents in the past, has the potential to fundamentally alter the balance of power in the United States, pushing the country closer to an authoritarian system. Trump and his supporters are already laying the groundwork for a series of bold actions, many of which will bypass the traditional legislative process entirely. The use of executive orders is not just a matter of efficiency, it's a power grab that can have far-reaching consequences for American democracy. In this video, we'll explore the ins and outs of executive orders, how Trump plans to use them, and the dangers they pose. From his plans to dismantle immigration policies to potentially curbing civil liberties, the coming Trump presidency is shaping up to be one that aggressively seeks to consolidate power within the executive branch. We'll also examine historical precedents and legal challenges that may emerge in response to these actions. What are executive orders? Executive orders are directives issued by the President of the United States to manage the operations of the federal government. While not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution, they are seen as part of the president's inherent powers. They allow the president to manage the executive branch, direct federal agencies, and implement policy changes without the need for congressional approval. Essentially, executive orders are a way for the president to sidestep the often slow-moving legislative process. The Code of Federal Regulations, CFR, outlines the procedures by which these orders are implemented, and while they are not permanent laws, they can shape the direction of federal policy and affect millions of Americans. The use of executive orders is most commonly seen when Congress is gridlocked, or when speed is necessary to address a pressing issue, such as a national crisis. In the past, executive orders have been used to push through significant reforms. For example, President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, which declared the freedom of slaves in Confederate states, was an executive order. Similarly, President Harry S. Truman desegregated the U.S. military in 1948 through an executive order, and in 1957, President Dwight D. Eisenhower used executive authority to desegregate Little Rock Central High School in Arkansas. These examples show that executive orders can be powerful tools for enacting immediate change, but they are also controversial and can be challenged in court. The Trump plan, using executive orders to subvert Congress. Trump's rhetoric has often focused on his desire to act quickly and decisively, bypassing the usual legislative hurdles. This has been a hallmark of his approach to governance, and it is expected to intensify in his second term. In particular, Trump has made it clear that he plans to use executive orders to implement sweeping changes to key areas of policy, such as immigration, healthcare, and environmental regulations. One of the most significant areas where Trump is expected to wield executive power is immigration. As we've seen from his first term, Trump's immigration policy is a cornerstone of his political identity. His administration enacted controversial measures, such as the Muslim ban and family separations at the border, using executive orders. However, Trump has promised to go even further, potentially using executive orders to suspend the entry of illegal aliens and to launch the largest domestic deportation operation in U.S. history. In the coming administration, Trump's use of executive orders may include new measures to completely overhaul the immigration system, bypassing Congress altogether. In a recent interview, Stephen Miller, one of Trump's top advisors on immigration policy, spoke passionately about the president's plans for day one of his second term. He promised that Trump would issue a series of executive orders to halt illegal immigration and dismantle what he described as criminal organizations that prey on the nation. Miller's words echoed the kind of authoritarian rhetoric that often accompanies the consolidation of executive power. He talked about using every tool available under Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution, including the Department of Defense, to enforce Trump's policies. This strategy of using executive orders to impose radical changes without waiting for legislative approval is deeply concerning for those who value democratic checks and balances. However, Trump's reliance on executive orders isn't limited to immigration. His administration is also expected to use them to weaken environmental protections, roll back healthcare reforms, and challenge existing labor laws. In essence, Trump aims to bypass Congress entirely, undermining the democratic process and using executive power to enact sweeping changes with minimal oversight. The dangers of executive orders. A path to autocracy? While executive orders are a legitimate tool for any president, their overuse, particularly when used to subvert congressional authority, can be dangerous. One of the most significant concerns is that the unchecked power of the executive branch could lead to authoritarian rule. As we've seen with Trump's previous use of executive orders, such as his travel ban, the potential for abuse is high. Executive orders can be challenged in court, but these challenges often take time, allowing the president to act unilaterally in the meantime. In addition to the potential for legal challenges, executive orders can be undone by the next president. This creates an unstable policy environment where each administration rolls back the actions of the previous one. However, when executive orders are used to dismantle key protections or reshape entire sectors of society, the damage can be long-lasting. Trump's use of executive orders also raises concerns about civil liberties. In his first term, we saw how his policies disproportionately targeted immigrant communities and minorities, with little regard for the constitutional rights of these groups. The potential for further erosion of civil rights under Trump's second term is a serious risk. For example, his administration may push forward policies that target specific racial or ethnic groups or infringe upon voting rights, all under the guise of executive authority. Furthermore, Trump's executive order-driven agenda threatens the balance of power between the branches of government. The Constitution was designed with checks and balances to ensure that no one branch of government could dominate the others. However, Trump's use of executive orders to sidestep Congress and implement his agenda unchecked undermines this system. If the president can legislate through executive orders without the need for congressional approval, the legislative branch loses its voice in shaping the nation's laws. Historical precedents. The dangers of executive orders in times of crisis. Throughout American history, there have been moments when the use of executive orders has had far-reaching consequences. One of the most infamous examples is Executive Order 9066, issued by President Franklin D. Roosevelt during World War II. This order authorized the forced internment of Japanese Americans, who were viewed as potential security threats following the attack on Pearl Harbor. Despite a lack of evidence that Japanese Americans posed any danger, over 100,000 individuals were forcibly relocated to internment camps. This dark chapter in American history serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked executive power, particularly during times of crisis. Similarly, Trump's rhetoric around immigration and national security raises concerns about the potential for future abuses of executive power. If Trump's administration decides to target specific communities or implement policies that infringe upon civil rights, the repercussions could be severe, particularly for vulnerable groups. The role of legal challenges, a safeguard against abuse of power. One of the most important mechanisms for protecting against the abuse of executive orders is the judicial system. Executive orders can be challenged in court, and while this process can be slow, it serves as a critical check on presidential power. In Trump's case, there are already advocacy groups and legal organizations preparing to challenge any unconstitutional executive actions he may attempt to implement. These challenges are essential in preserving the rule of law and ensuring that the president remains accountable to the Constitution. Legal challenges to Trump's executive orders can take various forms. For instance, a lawsuit could be filed to challenge an executive order on the grounds that it violates constitutional rights or exceeds the president's authority. However, these legal battles often take months or even years to resolve, meaning that the immediate impact of these executive orders can be significant before a court can intervene. The public's role in defending democracy. In light of the incoming administration's plans, it is crucial for the public to stay informed and engaged. Advocacy groups, Legal organizations and concerned citizens must be ready to take action to defend democracy and prevent the erosion of civil liberties. Resources like the American Autocracy Threat Tracker by Just Security can help individuals stay updated on the latest developments and legal challenges to executive orders. By staying informed and active, citizens can help ensure that executive power is not abused and that democratic values are upheld. The upcoming Trump administration may seek to use executive orders to consolidate power, but it is up to the public, the legal system, and advocacy groups to push back and defend the rights and freedoms that define the United States. The incoming Trump administration's plan to use executive orders to bypass Congress is a dangerous escalation in the ongoing struggle for power between the executive branch and the legislative branch. While executive orders can be a useful tool for a president to manage the federal government, they also pose significant risks to democracy, particularly when used to sidestep the democratic process. Trump's plans to implement sweeping changes without congressional approval could undermine civil liberties, erode democratic institutions, and push the United States closer to autocracy. As citizens, it is our responsibility to stay vigilant, engage with the political process, and defend the democratic values that have long defined the United States. Legal challenges, advocacy efforts, and public awareness will play a crucial role in ensuring that executive power is not abused and that the rights of all Americans are protected. The coming years will test the resilience of our democracy, and it is up to all of us to rise to the challenge. By staying informed and active, we can work together to push back against authoritarianism and safeguard the freedoms that are the foundation of our nation. The fight for democracy is not over, it is just beginning.